Good morning, everybody. My name is Michael SK, and welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 2. The Watanagashi is done. It is over with. The festival has come and gone for yet another beautiful year, which means somebody died, somebody has been demoned away or whatever, or has disappeared, and it may or may not be the same characters from Chapter 1. If we're going in the same direction, just with different events going on here and there, then it's set in stone that it's going to, for some reason, be Tomitake that's killed, and what's-her-face that will be demoned away, or she just disappears. That's just how it be. But it is the morning after. I let out a great big yawn. It was like morning had arrived just as I had got to sleep. As Mom set up breakfast, she gave me a pained smile.
どうしたの、ケイチ。昨べは何時に寝たの
？12時には寝たつもりだけど、昨日はなんだか寝つきが悪くてさ。
お祭りではしゃぎすぎて興奮して眠れなかったんでしょ。
違うよ。
Man, you gotta love it when they really gotta make those sound effects just to really tell you what's going on. I crunched down hard on the pickled radish to hide my embarrassment. After all that had happened yesterday, and our discussion about the sound Shion heard, that banging noise like a child far away, jumping up and down on a wooden floor, the story wouldn't get out of my head, so I had trouble sleeping. It was a long night, and I kept jumping at the sight or the slight sounds of faraway tree branches, which should have been either unhearable, unable to hear. Why am I struggling with this word? Or too insignificant to notice. It's late at night, and of course, that's not an excuse. When I woke up to the morning sunlight and birds chirping, it made me feel pretty ashamed about it, but I felt far from refreshed this morning.
ケイチくん、おはよう。あれ？ケイチくん目が真っ赤だよ。どうしてだろう。
おはよう。どういうわけか寝つきが悪くてな。そんなわけで今日は寝不足だ。
昨日のお祭りは楽しかったね。レナも興奮がなかなか冷めなくて、なかなか寝れなかったんだよ。
In Rena's case, her excitement seemed to still be wide awake.
こういうお祭りが何度もあればいいのにね。またみんなで大盛り上がり。はう。
まあ、そうだな。
Rena talking about the festival yesterday made me remember everything I had nearly forgotten from last night. The inside of the ritual storehouse had been so utterly different from the relaxed, bright everyday life of Hinamizawa. All those stories that Takano-san had told me too, the mysterious incidents that occurred on the day of the Watanagashi festival every year, the strange incidents where one person would die and one would disappear, the old stories of Hinamizawa flickering like a candle behind them, the numerous and horrifying traditions of Onigafuchi village, the villagers with demon blood in them, the terrible cannibalistic feasts, the poor sacrifices kidnapped from human villages, victims of the Onikakushi, to quell the rage of Oyashiro-sama, the ritual involving living sacrifices. There were also many, many others. There were so many stories that just remembering them put me in a foul mood. Most of them weren't fiction either. They were true. We didn't need to fear them just because they were real though. Since it all happened so long ago. Such a very long time ago. Yeah, that place was real creepy.
みーちゃん遅いね。
You know, I was kind of thinking that there may have been a slight possibility that that wasn't Shion who brought us in there, but I don't know. I think it was. It's kind of hard to tell, but I don't think that she would have had the opportunity to dress up like Shion and trick us in that fashion, like she did once before. Not once before. I don't even know how many times before. I mean, we know it was at least one time. Before I realized it, we arrived at the place where we'd usually meet with Mion. probably because I was so lost in thought.
この時間になっても来ないときは先に行ってもいい約束になってるんだけど、どうする？
Mion being late wasn't too rare an occurrence, but today she was unusually late. A few of the ominous tales from the night before came back to life in my mind again. Who would die this year and who would disappear? It couldn't have been Mion.
どうするかな、ケイチ君。もう行かないと遅刻になっちゃうかも。
来るよ。学校休むって電話があったわけじゃないだろ。もう5分待ってみようぜ。な。
Rena looked at her watch and seemed a little worried, but then she nodded with a satisfied smile. Huh. If we had to wait 5 minutes, we'd have to run as fast as we could to school or we'd be late. As soon as I thought that, we spotted Mion running towards us at a breath.
みーちゃん、遅い遅い。
待っててくれたわけ？先に行っちゃってもよかったのに。
Mion was breathing heavily and her face was all red. Her house was right down this road, wasn't it? It wasn't far enough for her to end up like this, was it?
みーちゃん、ひょっとして具合悪くない？
Huh? Now that she mentioned it, Rena pushed Mion's bangs away and put her hand to her forehead.
レナの手、冷たいな。
みーちゃん、ちょっとだけど熱あるよ。
I mean, she was literally running this way. Obviously, she's gonna feel a little bit of that warmth, you know?
半日もすればケロッと治っちゃうって。
本当に大丈夫かよ。あんまり無理するなよ。
あれ、ケイちゃん、気遣ってくれるの？嬉しいな。
That answer wasn't like Mion at all. She must have had it pretty bad.
無理しない方がいいと思うな。先生にはお休みだって伝えとくよ。
大丈夫大丈夫。風邪薬も飲んだし、すぐに効いてくると思うから。
Mion forced an energetic expression onto her face and flexed her biceps at us.
じゃあ行こうか。くれぐれも無理するなよ。って言いながら時間。
走らないと間に合わない。
スリリングな朝になっちゃったね。鈍った体にはちょうどいいカツかもね。走ろ。
Hey, wait, you're sick. Don't go overboard. Mion began to run vigorously anyway.
みーちゃんだって最上級生だよ。自分の体のことは自分で一番よくわかってるよ。
Damn, I'm like almost 24 and I barely know my body. Shit, I'm really bad with knowing what the hell's wrong with me. I decided to leave it at that and assume she was fine.
よし、俺たちも行こうぜ。
We began to run after Mion. Did we end up being late? The school looked the same as always, excuse me. The hours passed listlessly and my lack of sleep took its toll. Who knows if we were late? If there was a sport where people competed by sleeping, I'd be world champion right now. The trick to overcoming this sort of dangerous situation was to hold your pencil upside down. Why, you ask? So you don't draw strange patterns all over your notes while half asleep. If you were holding your pencil upside down, that wouldn't happen, would it? I wish I knew this, strat when I was still in college. Something that felt like an eraser hit me in the head 6 times.
あいてててて、何しやがるサトゴ。
私は何もしてないでございますわ。
お前以外にこんないたずら誰がするんだよ。消しゴムじゃなくてチョークか。え？
Uh-oh. Behind me, like a female outlaw might hold razors, was the teacher's shadow, holding 3 pieces of chalk in each hand.
前原くん、お顔を洗ってらっしゃい。
はい。喜んで。
That alone was enough to wake me up, but I flew out into the hallway as if shoved out by the pressure exuded by the teacher's sheer power. If I was going to wash my face anyway, then I would rather use the sinks out front, rather than the ones in the dark restroom. Thinking that, I left the hallway and went to the entrance. The sunlight was strong. So strong you wouldn't think it was June. I turned the faucet, and with a lifeless bubbling noise, lukewarm water came pouring out. If I let it run for a few moments, would it get cold? I looked at it absent-mindedly for a little while.
やっぱケイちゃんはこっちの流しを選んだか。
Isn't class going on right now?
表の方が気分いいもんね。
ミオンか。授業サボるなよな。
I stuck my hands into the water to find it had gotten so cold. Excuse me, that it seemed strange it had ever been warm. I scooped it up and splashed it against my face. Once I was done, I moved out of the way and Mion did the same.
ミオン、具合の方はいいのかよ。眠いのは寝不足じゃなくて、薬の副作用なんだろ？
実は内緒なんだけど、昨日はお祭りの後で親族の宴会に巻き込まれちゃってさ。それで、実はエンドレスに突入しちゃって。
Oh, that's illegal. A bit. She made a gesture like she was tilting a cup into her mouth. Which means you didn't have a cold or anything.
つまり、本当に寝不足なのかよ。徹夜明けならそうと言え、紛らわしい。
勘弁してよ。体調が悪いのは本当なんだからさ。
I suppose she'd be feeling lousy either way. Still, you treat colds and hangovers in completely different ways.
心配して損したぞ。たく、ミオンらしいというかなんというか。
Mion scratched her head, a little embarrassed. She didn't seem to be feeling well, but now that I knew it was a hangover, I didn't need to worry too much. It would go away with time, after all.
ああ、でも頭がガンガンするのは本当。だからさ、さっき先生に早退していいって言われちゃった。
あ、ずるいやつ。じゃあミオンはもうこれで帰りなのか？
Now that I looked again, Mion had her bag with her. She must have been on her way home.
申し訳ないけどね。今日は家でおとなしく寝させてもらうわ。部活できなくて申し訳ないね。今日はケイちゃんがリーダーってことでやってくれない？
多分無理だと思うぜ。俺たち部活は全員揃った時しかやらないっていう暗黙の了解があるだろう。ミオンがバイトに行ってる時はいつもそのままお開きだったんだぜ。
Mion laughed wryly, saying that we didn't need to worry about her. No matter how much fun we have, though, I think that feeling guilty about friends who can't share in it is the sign of a really fantastic friendship. In that sense, the club Mion had created is a wonderful thing. As I thought about it, the moisture on my washed face dried up. I suppose we were talking too much. If I didn't get back to the classroom soon, I could get in trouble.
じゃあな。俺は教室に戻るぜ。帰りは気をつけろよ。ふらふらして側溝や用水路に落ちるなよ。
I left it at that, turned around, and started heading back to the classroom.
あ、そうそう、ケイちゃん。
Mion stopped me, and I turned my head to listen.
なんだ？
変なこと聞くけど、深く考えないで答えてね。
Too hard about what?
それは内容によりけりだな。
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, please don't...
昨日の綿流しの晩さ、富武さんと高野さんに会わなかった？
Oh, god damn. Every time they do like that little freeze, I just think like something's gonna pop up in my face, or, you know, she's gonna do the fucking eye thing for whatever reason, and it's gonna spook me, and it's also 30 minutes from midnight, so your boy's a little tired, and it's also dark out. I suddenly tensed up.
富武さんと高野さんはわかるよね。ほら、ケイちゃん、お祭りの前日準備の時、シオンと一緒に4人でお話ししてたでしょ？
Oh, I know who they are. If I could, I wanted to forget about sneaking into the storehouse that night as soon as possible. So hearing the names of the people I was with at that time really got to me. Besides that, though, why was Mion asking me a question like that anyway? I ended up staring at her, unable to answer immediately. Was she asking to see if I had seen them or not? Or was she asking the question knowing that I had? I could not tell.
さあ、どうかな。会ったような、会わなかったような。
My vague response was clearly not to Mion's liking. What answer was she expecting from me? There was no way for me to know.
そう。 じゃあもう一つ質問ね。同じく昨べ、シオンに会わなかった？
Well, this was already asked to us. My heart leapt into my throat again. The tiny needles buried underneath Mion's words pricked into me.
それ昨日も聞いたよな。俺会ったかどうかわからないって答えたと思ったぜ。
そうだっけ？
Oh, no, 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 no. Please don't. Stop. Stop, stop. No, don't do that. I suddenly noticed... yes, I would definitely say that it's something indescribable as well. God, hate it when she does that fucking shit. Tomitake-san and Takano-san. Ch.2. She was asking me about them, and there was no doubt about it. Last night, the four of us snuck into the ritual storehouse, and she knew everything. So what? There's not really a curse anyway. That's right. Even Shion and Takano-san said yesterday during the festival that there was no curse. And that rather than a curse, it was the doing of the villagers. My blood curdled. Mion was, almost without a doubt, aware that we snuck into the storehouse. Maybe. It was nothing strange. I screwed up bad flipping on the light switch last night. If Mion had been searching for me, it was simple to imagine that she had seen that momentary light and come to find out what was going on. True.
本当に会ってないんだね。
I'm glad her eyes are back to normal.
どうして会ったかどうかをそんなに気にするんだよ。
大したことじゃないの。富武さんと高野さんと悪く言ってる人たちがいるの。
Ah. Well, that's great.
何が悪いんだかはよく聞いてないんだけどね。
Unpleasant sweat dripped down my arms, and the sound of it hanging from my fingertips was so annoyingly loud.
私、ケイちゃんが悪いことをするなんて信じてないから。でも、ちょっとだけ聞いてみたかったから聞いてみたの。不愉快な思いをさせてごめんね。
I found myself unable to reply. My reaction must have made it obvious what the truth was, and yet I couldn't explain myself.
ケイちゃんは、富武さんとも高野さんとも、そしてシオンとも一緒じゃなかった。そうだよね。
ああ。
I finally wrung out an answer between ragged breaths. Mion's expression softened a little.
よかった。私言っとくね。ケイちゃんは何にも悪いことには加わってないって。みんなにちゃんと言っておくからね。
Yeah, please do. Tell them I wasn't doing anything bad, whatever that implies. Please. To everyone, make sure... Everyone? Who is everyone?
じゃあね。明日は元気になってるから。バイバイ。
Yeah, you know, that was kind of vague. Who's everyone? Wait, Mion, what do you mean by everyone? Just then, a freezing cold hand touched the back of my neck. Who is it? Oh.
こら、遅いですよ、前原くん。顔を洗うだけなのに時間がかかりすぎです。
It was the teacher. I was taking so long she came out to get me.
あ、すみません。ついミオンとおしゃべりを。
I turned around, but Mion had crossed through the schoolyard without me realizing it and was now standing at the gate.
さ、お勉強に戻りますよ。早く早く。
The teacher was being insistent. We returned to the entrance. I looked back one more time and Mion was nowhere in sight. Well, now that they're doing the eye thing, that sort of means that we're,
今日はずっと元気がないのです。
Sorry, hit my fucking desk. I guess we're at that point where, you know, things just aren't going to go well no matter how much you want them to. And yes, we have not been all that well today.
昨日大はしゃぎしすぎたからに違いありませんわ。
迷子になって目を真っ赤にさせて半泣きしてたやつに言われたくねえ。
ゆうべのさとこちゃんかわいかったよ。はう。
My friends did their best to try and cheer me up, but it didn't lighten my mood. Was it far worse than I thought? Had I really done something that terrible last night? These thoughts remain with me for the rest of the day.
じゃあねケイチくん、また明日ね。
By the time I realized it, I was in front of my own house. Damn, I wish I had this time skipping
兄ちゃんも
ability.
風邪だったみたいだけど、ひょっとしてケイチくんもなのかな
え、大丈夫だよ。こう見えても風邪で休んだことはないんだぜ。
でもみーちゃんもケイチくんも今日は具合が悪そうだし。
気にしてくれてありがとな。大丈夫。バカは風邪ひかないんだぜ。
Haha, and what does that make Mion? Rena smiled and then waved to me and left. With my shoulders bobbing up and down from breathing heavily, I entered the house. As soon as I got back in, Mom called out to me.
何？
ケイチ、悪いんだけど図書館に行って本を返してきてくれない？
This is a very odd favor to ask, but okay.
めんどくさいな。
お父さんも母さんも今ね、ちょっと電話待ちをしてるところで家を開けられないの。返却期限も今日までだし、お願いできない？
Sheesh. Did it have to do with Dad's job? No point in arguing if they bring that up.
仕方ないな。でも俺、図書館がどこにあるか知らないよ。
あら、知らないの？沖宮の駅前をちょっと進んで。
Just then, the phone rang. My parents' face immediately turned grim. Mom snatched up the receiver.
もしもし、前原です。はい？はい、おりますけど。
Then she thrust the receiver at my face.
圭一に電話よ。早めに終わらせてね。
I tried to ask who it was from, but asking the person on the phone directly would be faster. Yeah, honestly.
もしもし。
あ、園崎の妹の方です。こんにちは。今はお時間大丈夫ですか？
Yeah, technically. It was Shion. The older sister had a hangover today, but the younger made no reference to it.
シオンか。ミオンと同じで、今日は徹夜明けで寝込んでるんじゃないかと思ったぜ。
え？それじゃあおね、今日はずる休みですか？おねらしい。
She laughed warmly, but Mom glared at me, silently telling me to finish up.
ごめんな。ちょっと親が電話待ちをしてるんで、そんなに長話はできないんだ。何の用だ？
お話ししたいことがあったんですけど、長電話が無理じゃ仕方ないですね。
She sounded a little disappointed. What would Shion want to talk to me about? Now I was interested.
じゃあさ、会って話をしないか。ついでに図書館にも案内してもらえるとありがたい。
図書館って駅前の私立図書館ですか？
Yeah.
別にいいですよ。バイトのついでってことで。
じゃあいつもミオンと待ち合わせてる場所わかるか？園崎家の小道に分かれる分岐の。
あ、ケイちゃん言ってませんでしたっけ？私本家じゃなくて沖宮の家に住んでるんですよ。だから待ち合わせ場所は沖宮駅の改札前なんかにしてくれた方が嬉しいんですけど。
Main house. Living in Okonomiya. Now that she mentioned it, it's always seemed like the Sonozaki sisters weren't communicating. Did they live in different houses? Wasn't this told to us before? Also, now that she mentioned it, Rena said that she'd never met the younger sister, despite going over to play sometimes.
じゃあ駅に集合な。すぐに行くよ。じゃあ。
I set the receiver down, and Mom immediately thrust a large pile of library books in my face. 6 volumes of long-form mystery novels. Mom had her own hobbies, and there's nothing wrong with
よろし
that.
くね。お夕飯までには帰るのよ。
じゃあ行ってくれよ。
I supposed I'd change my clothes and grab my bike key. That confused me. I climbed the stairs to my bedroom. I guess we're all good now. What a nice little time skip. Shion had been waiting for me already, so meeting up was a smooth process.
ミオンと違って、シオンは待ち合わせ時間を守るな。しみじみ。
おねを標準にされるといろいろと困ります。
Huh? Shion seemed a little unsteady too. She was drinking with Mion last night, wasn't she?
お前も夕べは寝てないんだろ？隠しても無駄だぞ。で、学校を早退したに違いない。
残念でした。 私はそもそも今日はずる休みしてますので。私、お姉より容量いいですから。
Hey, I don't think you can call playing hooky smarter.
じゃあ、先に用事を片付けます？時間もそんなにないですから、図書館へ行くんですよね。
ああ、頼むよ。おふくろの借りてる本の返却期限が今日までらしいんで。図書館は遠いのか？
すぐ近くですよ。
As she said that, we spotted the signboard for the library almost immediately. If it was this easy to find, then I guess I didn't need Shion to show me where it was after all. We rode around a bend, and the building was right there. Shishibone Public Library. We lived in the country, so I hadn't expected too much, but it was pretty big. The first floor was actually a government office, so the library was only on the second floor, but it still looked large enough to fit a decent collection of books. We passed through the automatic doors, and we were greeted by the cool breeze of an air curtain. The cicadas had been loud outside, and it was quiet inside the library. The air conditioning inside was keeping the temperature at an ideal level for the books, which had the mildewy smell unique to old paper.
どこの図書館も似たようなもんだな。
If there was one difference, it was that people studying for tests weren't taking up all the seats. I was one of those people, but now that seemed like a distant memory.
すみません、返却に来ました。
The librarian went through the process of checking them in, and then returned my mom's library card. Shion was going around the bookshelves with a deeply interested look on her face, like she wasn't the type who went to libraries very often.
悪いな、お待たせ。終わったよ。
図書館って涼しくていいところですね。
Oh, I love libraries. Back to that whole, like, going to libraries for studying. I've done that here locally. I did that over at the university. I did that when I was just at the community college here. It's just the place to go. It's just a nice environment. Even so, my university library, it was a huge library, don't get me wrong, but I think it was set up more for people to kind of just go there for studying and relaxing. And sure, there were a collection of books, but they weren't like lined up everywhere. You had to go to certain sections for it. Still a really cool place, and I do miss it. Too bad COVID got in the way.
私、将来は図書館で働きたいです。
地味というか堅実というか、姉と比べると随分とささやかな希望だな。
Mion would definitely want to be a hardworking employee for an international trading company, or some other crazy job that involved her running all around the world. Compared to that, what Shion said is pretty heartwarming.
まあ、互いの持ち味を大切にしたいですよね。私たち分身じゃなくてシオンとミオンというちゃんとした個人なんですから。
And that is true.
双子は双子なりにいろいろと考えてるんだな。でも楽しそうだよな。俺には兄弟はいないから、うちには俺以外は親しかいない。窮屈なもんだよ。
私だってそうです。お姉とは一緒に住んでるわけじゃないですから。
Oh, right, she said something like that, didn't she? Why, though? Sisters living apart is unusual. We were getting tired of talking while we were walking. We ended up going into the lounge area, which was vacant, and continuing the conversation.
え、お姉は本家に、私は沖宮の家に住んでるんです。
本家ってなんだ？随分と立派な響きがあるけどな。
本家は本家です。園崎家の本家。お姉は跡取りだから、バッチャと一緒に住んで、いろいろと当主としての修行をさせられてるみたいです。
Mion, the head of the family. It kind of fit her personality, but also kind of didn't.
ケイちゃんは引っ越してきたばかりでしたよね。自分で言うのもなんですけど、園崎家ってここいらじゃ結構名士なんですよ。
え、本当かよ。
The word personage didn't really match the extremely sociable air that Mion and Shion gave off. From what Shion explained, the Sonozaki family goes way back to the beginnings of Hinamizawa. After the war, they had a bunch of successful ventures and extended their influence to a wide area.
園崎家はですね、親族全体で助け合う土壌があるんです。今の当主のバッチャが築き上げたんですけどね。
The entire family would provide backup to help one relative with a business venture. They were like a huge living company. This let them avoid tax-related problems and help relatives' ventures succeed, one after another using large amounts of money.
沖宮の街を歩くことがあったら、看板とかを意識してみてください。園崎の親族が経営しているお店ってとても多いんですよ。
言われてみれば、例のおもちゃ屋も親類の人が経営してるみたいだったな。そういえば、エンジェルモートも親類の人が経営してるんじゃないのか?
Even what few shops I was familiar with were involved with the Sonozaki family. It was definitely surprising.
特に金融不動産関係は強いですね。あと商工会議所の役員も何割かは園崎姓かその親類がついてます。沖宮一帯を評伝に市議会議員と県議会議員にも園崎がいますし。
ちょっと待て。なんだかすごい話になってきたぞ。
Her relatives operate shops in downtown Okinomiya, and they're especially strong in finance and real estate. On top of that, a lot of those in the Chamber of Commerce and Industry are relatives, and there are even people elected to local offices.
ひょっとして園崎家ってこの辺り一帯じゃすごいんじゃ。
Uh-oh.
ねえ、すごいんです。
When the fuck did this guy get here? All of a sudden, a cigarette-smoking, overweight old man interrupted our conversation. Wait, I know this guy.
どうも。
Yeah, okay, yeah, this is moving in a different direction, so we are going to save it. I don't know what direction that's gonna really transition into, but we'll leave it there and continue on next time. Thank you all for watching this episode. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz. I don't have much to say here other than, like what I said earlier, sort of seems like we're moving into the creepy, oh shit, things aren't going to be good going forward type of deal, which I'm all for. I'm really all for it, but I'm also all for that information. Instead of it just being a repeat of a lot of the things that we know, which sure it has been here and there, a lot has been new information, and I respect that. It's been a lot of fun so far, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.